Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. This is Patrick Laing, your host. I have a very special guest today, a good friend of mine, Tony DeGraff. He is a super connector, executive producer, published author, entrepreneur. The list goes on and on. As you get to know Anthony today on today's episode of Finding Certainty, you're going to see that he is an expert in creating more certainty in people's lives. And everyone he touches, it seems. You have the Midas touch, Tony, and you help create, develop, and drive home the principles that help establish more certainty in seems like everyone you meet. And don't know if I've ever met anyone who's as good as you. So appreciate you being on the show today. Really looking forward to hearing your story a little bit and sharing some of the things that are going on in your impressive career. Thanks for being here.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And, did you ever see the end of Iron Man? The original Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.?
Absolutely.
So you remember the other Tony, we'll call him the other Tony, where Stark goes, I am Iron Man.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing. So my alias, my Bruce Wayne Batman alias, I'm more like the other Tony. So Tony, I typically go by the moniker Tony Dody, but my born name is Anthony DeGraff because my dad, I have a great relationship with him now, but I met him when I got a little bit older. And so Tony Dreammaker Dody, but also Anthony DeGraff, don't tell anyone I am Iron Man. But thank you for having me here, brother. I'm super excited. And I love you so much. You're incredible. One of the most incredible human beings I've ever met.
I feel the same way about you. Last time you were in town with you and your wife, Christina, we were able to break some bread together, go see the Blue Man Group. And it was Blue one Man of the Group. Highlights. Yes. I get a lot to Vegas, right? But we had a good time that night.
That was incredible. That was our first Blue Man Group show, and we were going to go several times. We're originally from Jersey and New York, but we live in South Florida now. We're in Disney all the time. I think we're in Disney more than Mickey Mouse, especially since they don't have the license anymore, right? The 100 years ran out. But we would always go to Universal as well, and we were going to go to the show, and we just never got around to the Blue Man Group. So you took us to the Blue Man Group, and I was amazed. The guy, catching the marshmallows and everything in his mouth. That was a really beautiful night. I thought you were going to go up there at some point. I mean, it was really bringing people from the audience. They did a great show. We had so much fun with you that night.
It was fun.
Yeah,
so I always start out my show. If you're a new listener, if you've just stumbled across Finding Certainty today and you say, what is this about? This is intriguing. We did a Google search a while back about how many times the word certainty appeared in the media. And it's thousands of times, right? But when we Googled the word uncertainty, it was tens of thousands of times.
Wow.
Uncertainty is a big issue. It's on everyone's minds. We're worried about the future. We're worried about inflation and about the economy and about politics and the presidential campaign. The list goes on, right? And people are looking for answers. And so I always start the show out, though, sharing two reasons why I've invited this specific guest to be on Finding Certainty. And in Tony's case, number one, I refer to him as a super connector. It's because, as I said, I don't know if you've always been like this or it's an acquired skill, but he is a master at bringing parties together. And 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2 or even 3, it equals 11 when you get Tony in the picture, right? Especially when you put them side by side. But
I'm in 11.
Yeah, the other reason, though, I wanted to bring you on, Tony, is that you seem to have a knack for building wealth in yourself and those around you. You connect people and you're able to accomplish some really extraordinary things, giving back and making a difference and so forth. But you also seem to have that Midas touch. There's a lot of business owners on here, a lot of entrepreneurs and prospective and wannabe entrepreneurs who are looking at people like yourself and saying, how can I do what they've done? And so in today's show, I'm hopeful we can dig into that a little bit and maybe unpack those two topics. So
that would be wonderful. Yeah. I love that. But, I have to tell you, first of all, certainty. I love the name. All right. And it fits you. You're so grounded. Some people are air, some people are grounded. I'm more like an air guy that has learned to be grounded. And my beautiful wife is, she's a Taurus. She's very grounded. I'm Cancer. I'm kind of like, hey, at the end of the day, certainty is one of the 6 basic human needs. And we all rank them differently, but certainty, uncertainty, right? Contribution, right? There's 6 of them. And some people love uncertainty. Every weekend they want to jump out of an airplane. Tony Robbins talks about this. That's not me. I like to have fun. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very much like a certain kind of guy. Like I want to know things are there. And then once we have I always say a skyscraper can grow as tall as the foundation is built upon. And once we know the foundation's there, the health, the wealth, the happiness, right? Not necessarily in that order, then we can build and we can keep building up. And even the Bible speaks about your daily bread, right? Calculating the cost to build a tower and so forth. But I'm very big on certainty. That's actually, to me, number 1, basic human needs. And number 2 is contribution. Number 3, significance is my love language. I love, and I thank you. I always love to hear positive words of adulation. That lets me know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And, I encourage everybody this year that, if you don't know kind of where you're at and you feel like you don't have certainty, to really write out, this is definitely an Orrin Woodward thing. This is not mine, but your F's of life, right? You write them out. It's one thing to have a vision board. I tell people, right? We have, thankfully, John Assaraf, the father of the modern day vision boards in our movie. And, we'll be airing that in 2 weeks, January 26th. It's going to be on Amazon. And, but John's the father of the modern day vision board. And at the end of the day, though, vision boards are great. And especially if you're visual, right? But I always say that, if you can write the F's of life and your faith and your fitness and your fun, which is the you time, your friends, your family, right? Your footprint. Right. Your footprint is, your legacy you leave when you're not here. Your following is who, basically you serve while you are here. And you can write them all out, you're in your finances, of course, scale of 1 to 10, and then where you're at. Then you can actually get a visual representation you can actually see. And then from there, you can start kind of charting, because we know a lot of people, thankfully, and to your point, connected to a lot of people. And, to piggyback what you shared earlier, I was actually today, and I'll tie this all together. Today, I was picking up my friend's son, who's in our last movie. If you've seen The Secret, it came out after that, Beyond Limitations. And her son, unfortunately, is getting bullied in school. And he's going through a moment right now. And, I just shared with him a lot when we were driving back. And I was once upon a time bullied, and so was my beautiful wife, right? And so we, in 2000, I think it was 8-ish, thankfully, with one of my heroes growing up, Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, the WWE superstar, created an anti-bullying charity called USA Bullying United Strong Against Bullying. But tying this all back together is that, going back to certainty. So, little guy does not feel like he has certainty now. And he needs to outreach, and he wants, to be grounded. So there's different tactics and tools and things like that. And it brought me back to when I was younger. And I actually thought about, yes, I've always kind of been that person that has been there to see what people needs, right? It's something that I think, we all have gifts, right? Like Gary Vee says, everyone's good at 1, 2, maybe 3 things, and they're bad at everything else. If you ask me to change a tire, your steering wheel might fall off, right? But if you've asked me to put you with, your dream person, thankfully, if it's not me directly and knows them, 6 degrees of separation, they say. It's typically 1 or 2 now, I would say at this point, occasionally 3. We can do that because I understand, thankfully, from a young age, I've always studied the algorithm of people. We all want love. We want to be loved. There's all these things that as a human being, from a macro perspective, we all share the same, basically wants and needs and desires, right? And then when you start getting into micro things, somebody may want to be, work for NASA, or somebody may want to take their company, build a company and scale it and take it public, or somebody just wants to be a great mother or father, whatever that is, right? But at the end of the day, I do feel like it's a gift. But for anybody watching, if you're given a God-given gift, you have to work at it. Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time, but he got cut from the high school team. We all know the story. You have to actually work to harness your gift to make it better. And, my beautiful wife who just left, she has the privilege of doing our next knighting ceremony here in South Florida. And she's buying a book on etiquette. And my wife, her and Lady Dody, I would say, are probably the 2 most polished human beings I've ever met. The way they speak, the way they articulate themselves, the proper etiquette. I have elbows on the table right now. If she was here, she'd be yelling at me, and she's going to buy a book. And I actually said to her yesterday, we're driving back from a beautiful venue, the Cruise building in Miami. And I said, I'm so impressed that you bought a book on this topic, because to me, she's an authority on this topic. But it's always learning and growing and scaling to be better. And I think that's something I've always worked on to help more people.
100%. So before we get into what's going on right now. You have the movie coming out in 2 weeks. You have the knighting ceremony coming up in March. All things I want to talk about today. But let's go back in time a little bit and find out who is Anthony DeGraff. Who is Tony Dreammaker Dody? Right? Where'd you come from? Maybe a little bit about your family. I'm always curious about the backstory, about what brought you to where you are today.
I love it. The origin story, I always call it. Thank you for that. So I was bitten by a radioactive spider. That's a different guy, different story. Although, it's funny. I said this at our last premiere, all joking aside, about a year ago. I said, if you're watching, you don't have to be raised by the person or have the person that's a mentor in front of you to mentor them. I feel like I was raised at a young child, a little bit kind of back before I share that portion. My mother had me at a very young age, and at the time they didn't give you a TV show on MTV. And it was interesting because you don't know this as a child, but as you grow and you delve into self-development and so forth, right, you realize that there's a pattern, right? My grandma had my mom at a young age. My great-grandma had my mom and my grandma at a young age, right? And I love them all with all my heart. So I was raised by these three very strong Italian women for a while until my mom married my stepdad, John Morgan. So my last name could technically be Morgan. I have like 8 different names it could be. And then my biological father came into the picture at 11. And, I love him. He came in at a time that I felt like, they say newborn till 12, you really need your mother. And then from like 12 on, you kind of need your father. So I felt like he was, kind of there, again, not knowing that, but intuitively feeling that back then. And it's funny, the nature versus nurture thing. I'm more like my dad's personality. My dad, if you've ever seen Three's Company way back in the day, Jack Tripper, he's like this silly kind of funny guy, but people love him and they respect him. And he's done successful corporate things, starting at the bottom, working up to the VP globally in his company, blah, blah, blah. I obviously went a little bit of a different route, but watching my father, who, he'll tell you, was a young, boxer at the time and a little bit of a bonehead, right? But he got himself together, came back, and he repurposed his life, right? And I came back into it, and other family members and so forth as well. And at the end of the day, what was really wonderful is that I got to see some contrast and I got to choose kind of who to be, right? And so going back now into the 90s, I was raised, I feel like, by Michael Jordan. I watched him and I'd watch him no matter what. He would find a way to win, right? He would find a way. And I said, creating yourself as a young person, I like that. I like to emulate that. So I pick up the basketball, I'd go play. I was actually pretty good. Obviously nowhere near Michael Jordan good. Nobody ever was, in my opinion. But, at the end of the day is I took that determination, that trait, always finish what you start no matter what, from him. I would read comic books from, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And he was good and he was honest and he always did the right thing. Even if the next day the newspapers trashed him, J. Jonah Jameson, those guys, I took those traits upon. Like I always wanted to morally do the right thing. Not perfect, but always try to. And then I took the traits of, there was a guy named Shawn Michaels, a WWE wrestler. And just that funny, witty banter. Because I was really shy when I was a kid, dealt with some bullying, although I would push back. I would be the guy that would push back and defend like the kid. And, I'm thin. So I was like kind of Captain America in the movie before he got the super soldier serum, still pretty thin. But my nickname was also Spider-Man. I was like agile and fast. And I just really enjoyed, right? And I always tried to do what was right. But I felt like you always should take what's good from your family, right? And leave out what's not great, right? And then you become the person you co-create, in my opinion, with God, who you want to be. It's like Tony Robbins says, he said, I created this mother bleeper, right? That's what he always says. And I think that's a choice of free will. But that was my upbringing. And I became the oldest of 7 when my two families kind of merged. And I really take the role of the big brother seriously. I don't have kids yet, God willing, one day. But I love being like that fun-loving big brother, there for everyone type person. I'm the guy when the bat signal goes on at 3 a.m, I'm there to, pick up, although being quite busy, to say the least. There's one of me. But this year, I'm definitely trying to leverage myself more. But that's my origin story, and I parlay that into business, always helping and connecting people, because I felt like there was always a need to help and connect. And it doesn't matter if it was Emmett Smith or Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle or my next door neighbor, right? We all have things that we would like to do to move forward with our life. And I just love to be a beacon to be able to help with that.
So, Tony, where did you grow up? What part of the country? And I don't know if you know this, but I lived in Italy for 2 years.
Wow.
I speak fluent Italian, so all things Italian it's my second home.
Prego.
Where did you grow up exactly?
I grew up in actually predominantly, we moved around a lot till fifth grade, but fifth grade was the anchor, in my opinion. Tom's River, right outside the Jersey Shore there, Seaside Heights. Okay. And loved it. Absolutely loved it.
You still have family there. I know you're in Jersey fairly often. You were just in New York recently, had a big event at Times Square, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Amazing. Yes. 18 hours, thankfully, after Ryan Seacrest dropped the ball. And big shout out to Larry Neighbor. Larry discovered Ryan, so we know Larry. Larry's a wonderful guy. And I can't say I'm hosting the awards next year or the ball dropping next year, but we were on the big billboard for our new movie on January 1st, which was really cool. And had a ball, got to see my grandmother, thank God, at the Jersey Shore, my dad's side of the family in PA, and my wife and my side of the family down in South Jersey. And it was 28-degree weather. I wore this earlier today, and it's 80 degrees in South Florida. And I'm like, well, I kind of forgot what planet I was on for a moment there. But yeah, I truly love my roots. I love there. It does get cold, so we live down here. We do try to go back and forth. But yeah, I love that area so much. It's just so meaningful to me. And so many wonderful people come from Jersey, New York, that area.
They do. I served in the Army. I actually went to boot camp at Fort Dix, New Jersey, about 100 years ago. So, yeah.
I look really good for 100.
We are up against our first break already. It goes fast. Oh
my God.
Don't go away. We're visiting with Tony Dreammaker Dody. Anthony DeGraff is his legal name, but he is an influencer. He's an executive producer, author. He's what I call a super connector, which is one of the keys to creating more success in your own life. Learn how to be a connector. Even while we were waiting, Tony was chatting with our sound engineering and getting to know him. And that is such a talent that Tony has. It's such an important principle, important characteristic if you want to create more success and more certainty in your life. But we are up against our first break. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on Finding Certainty. Thanks for listening.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. I'm your host, Patrick Laing, and I'm visiting with my good friend, Anthony DeGraff. Tony Dreammaker Dody. You do have a lot of names, Tony. It's a little bit hard to keep track of, but between blended
Just
families.
don't call me late for dinner. The Italian say, "Don't call me late for dinner."
Yeah, it's like I can picture a big crazy Italian family. I mean, I mentioned I lived in Italy for a long time. I was an interpreter with the army, and I love all things Italian. But you have so many names and monikers and where you're known professionally, and I think it's in part because you have such a diverse kaleidoscope of a background. Blended families, where you grew up, and what you've done, and I look at your career, and you're really living a dream life for a lot of people. They look at you and they think, man, how did he do it? And so I'm curious to hear, just maybe in a couple of minutes here, the transition from you as a kid. Michael Jordan was a big inspiration to you, as he was for many of us. How did you transition from there into your career, where now you're an executive producer and you are this super connector? But how did you do it? How did you make that leap? Because everyone looks at you and looks at, influencers like you and asks the same question. How can I do that? How can I follow in their footsteps?
Thank you. Well, I start by saying, like, if one can, all can, and I truly mean that. If one can, all can, right? Like, we're no different. The different, again, might just be the skill set. So, I think you do a little soul searching, right? And you kind of find out who you are, right? And once you find out who you are and what you would like, think about, like, if you did something, like, what juices you, right? And if you can get paid to do it, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. You'd probably even do it for free because you just love doing it, right? And
doesn't even feel like work, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's your dharma. That's your dharma, right? And so young me, like super young me, I'm 42 now. Most people think I'm younger, so I just kind of go with it, But I also want to start by saying I never did a lot of crazy stuff, in the sense, like, I wasn't the coolest kid, right? So let's just put that out there. But I never, I actually never drank before. Never did a drug, never smoked, never did anything like that. That might add to, looking younger and being whatever, right? But in my heart, I feel 24. I think I'm 24 years old. I truly do, right? And at the end of the day, I got my first mentor. I always knew I wanted to do something different, right, than other people. There's a great book called Rascal. When people are going left, you go right type thing. If you're zigging people, you should zag. And I got my first mentor. I always say 24, but I actually think it was 23. It's 20. Was it 20? I think it was 23, 24. And I had just graduated college. I learned more from him, my first mentor, than all my years combined of college. Hands down, no doubt, no questions asked. Times, like, plug in a number, 10, 100, whatever. Because I learned real life practicality. And so what I tell people is, like, find out, like, what you really love doing. And, if you read a book on a certain topic, forget the accurate stuff, but more than like 90% of everybody worldwide. I think it's even higher than that, like 97%, right? So just reading a book on a topic, more than most people, right? And again, going back to Gary Vee, like he said earlier, basically, once you are able to identify what you're good at, you're good at 1, 2, 3 things, like, find a way to monetize it and create a living. And so that's the way I've learned a lot throughout the years. So first, it was my first mentor. It was Andrew Panotakis Marine. So thank you for your services, and thank you for serving me literally almost 2 decades ago. And then you learn and you grow, right? It was a direct sales company, and I believed in the product. It was wellness, nutraceuticals. So I learned a lot about that industry. We were helping people. Met my hero, Kurt Angle, at the time at an autograph signing. Long story to it. But bottom line, was a fan in a line. Handed him an envelope. It was a direct sales company, network marketing company, wonderful product. And, told him it could help his neck, because I knew he had broke his neck a few times. They thanked me. There was 500 people other in line, went back in line. When I said to my friend, hey, do you think he's going to read this? And my friend said, honestly, no. I said, well, we need to go back in line. And he said, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not waiting. I said, well, I am. Right. And I literally went back in line, waited till I got to meet my friend, my hero at the time, who became a friend, and gave him information when it was just us. And he said, lean back in the chair. And he said, Ant, actually, he called me Ant right away. And I'm praying for something. Let me call you about this. And something told me, and he told me some other personal stuff, which I won't share, but I truly believed he was going to call. And I truly believed, and I looked at my phone. It was flip phones. This is back in, I think, 06, right? And I'm looking at the phone, and I knew he's going to call. And I was, in college. I was a waiter part-time. I just finished up college. But, finding what my next move was, right? And I knew my phone was going to ring. And sure enough, it's a very long story, in depth, but basically he called me. It was a Friday, called me that Sunday. Phone rang, and there was a poster on the wall in the dorm. And sure enough, it was Kurt Angle, my hero. And I was able to help him and fill a gap. And when I helped him fill a gap, which in his life at the time was his health, he got better and he wrestled again and he came out of retirement. He was about to retire and he continued and he started wrestling with TNA Wrestling down in Universal Studios, and they matched his, 7-figure income to, continue to wrestle. Instead of stopping at 06, he wrestled at 17 when John Cena inducted him in the Hall of Fame. And he sent me something before we became close and said, Anthony, the Limu, it was called Limu, the product, saved my career and possibly my life. We became close friends and eventually created an anti-bullying charity and a bunch of other things for this company, Angle Foods and all that. But it started with filling a need, filling a niche, right? And what I learned is like, wow, here we are. This is a guy we all look up to, but he had some serious things going on. And he was pretty young. He was, I think 40 at the time. No, he was 39. He was making fun about turning 40. It's, still a young guy. And so then I learned, wow, I bet every human being, right? Most people don't have 2 gold medals around their neck, right? Not to say he's better or anything, but that was his endeavor of choice. Like there's a gap there to fill. And so from the principles of direct sales, I learned person A with person B for project C, put them together, because it was always a person that can fill the gap of what they needed. So it naturally led to me eventually meeting my first producer. And the guy worked on some very big shows that we all know in CNBC. And he said, I don't like people, but you do, and you're really good at people. I want to do back end, you do front end, and I have a team that put it together. And next thing you know, we have our first film company, right? And we're doing, some things on the Jersey Shore and, Pennsylvania. We're filming the towns and we're putting them up on the E and the Bravo and the blah, blah, blah. And I learned a lot about distribution and all that. And then a lot of people don't know I went down for about 5.5 years. It was a healing journey in which I truly believed, again, my whole philosophy in life is Simon Sinek says it starts at why. I believe it starts at what? Fueled by your why. That's what keeps you going. But at the end of the day, it happens with how. Like you need the who to give you the how. You need, if you look at your life as a pitcher, you're the pitcher of your life, of your business, of your brain. And, a pitcher is not going to be a shortstop, right? A shortstop, and a pitcher is not going to be a catcher. And the best pitcher is the worst catcher and vice versa, right? You have to be what you're good at and be a Golden Glove winner of what you're good at. And then go find the other Golden Glove winner to fill, is it an influencer? Is it a CMO? Is it a CTO? What is it? And fill that. So truly, like, it naturally progressed into, just helping people in different industries. And that's why I say, thankfully, what we transcend industries. And it became, working with these people in Hollywood from that. And it became, meeting the billionaires when they needed something with funding, whatever. And it became, was already friends with one gold medalist. So I mean, other gold medalists and other athletes and going backstage and what do you do and what do you do type thing, right? And I just found that every human being, right? Nobody's like at a nirvana state. Like they need something to fill a gap to move them forward. Go ahead, please. I get excited. I'm sorry.
To your point, Tony, you hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, where you talked about how you helped him fill a need. And when we talked to you, I talked about you as a super connector, right? All that is you filling needs for people. It's putting this group with that group for Project C. That's what we do with our company. We're a connector. We are, some people call us a mediator or a broker or an advocate, but it's ultimately about connecting this party with this project, this need with this solution, or this nonprofit with this funding source. And you are really good at it. And I think if that was a part of you as a kid, you've just added to that natural ability and those natural leanings, and it's evolved and taken on a life of its own. Now, I know you're coming up on a premiere in 2 weeks, January 26th. Yeah. And that's a big deal. This is not the first rodeo. This is the 4th in the series, from starting with the worldwide phenomenon, The Secret, and then mention just the titles of the next 2. And I know your movie coming up is Beyond Physical Matter. It's going to be at the Spectrum in Irvine on January 26th. Yes. 7 p.m. that night, right, is the screening?
The screening, yes. And so thank you for that. And the website's beyondphysicalmatter.com. And we all know Rhonda did The Secret. She did a wonderful job. It opened up a world of, looking into energy, right, and energetics. And that's what I learned. People that have made, 6 figures, $1 million or 2, a lot of them they don't delve into energy, but the ones that are, multimillionaire, into the billionaire status, right? Basically, they really look at energy, and energy really is truly an amazing people. You are some average. We've all heard this, the 5 people you hang out the most. Well, what's the science there? The science is there's a vibration, and you vibrate at a certain frequency, right? Even the Bible says that like attracts like, right? So, iron sharpens iron, and at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So Rhonda did a great job with that. Our legendary producers, Don and Melinda Boyer, Sir Don and Lady Melinda Boyer, they're now knighted, and he is the Grand Prior of California, and she's the Prior. And at the end of the day, basically what that means is they have the ability to knight people in the state of California through the lineage of the prince, through lineage of Emperor Constantine. But this is their 20th movie. They've had 42 books, 28 movies. If you could think of a name in self-development, from Bob Proctor to John Astrout to Les Brown to Dennis Wheatley, they've worked with them, right? Books, movies, the whole deal. So it's an honor, So they did Beyond the Secret, The Awakening, which did very, very, very well on Amazon. And had a lot of names of The Secret and some newer guys in it. Dave Meltzer and some of those guys were in that movie. And then we did Beyond Limitations last year, which was filmed in LA, Dubai, Australia. Had a great time in Dubai. Sir John Sartoris is a wonderful guy. If you don't know him, don't ask me to spell his name. He has a company called Ascira, ASCIRA.com, and you'll meet him. Wonderful guy. Really wonderful story, too. He's like I call him like the Bruce Wayne of Dubai. But like truly, these wonderful people were on that. But this one is very exciting because what this is taking, it's taking basically the understanding of the quantum, understanding of, manifesting, materializing, taking the basically the dream state, so to speak, right, and bringing it to fruition truly, like people like Walt Disney have done that and so many others, and understanding what it takes to really bring your dreams into reality and what the science is of that. And, at the end of the day, they understand this more than ever before, right? And so this movie is really, truly going beyond physical matter. So we have John Asserat, the creator of the Modern Day Vision Board. We have Dr. Joe Vitale, who's going to be there as well, too. And we have the next day VIP tickets to sit with Dr. Joe Vitale, who, has a, 8-figure brand. And none of these guys, by the way, with the exception of Joe Dispenza, none of these guys, and Joe even a little bit, but Bob Proctor had something going on. None of those guys, and Bob never hit the 8-figure mark until after The Secret. And, at the end of the day, it started at a Jack Canfield mastermind where Rhonda came and people were involved and said, hey, I have this concept for a movie that's, and all these people, their lives have changed. And we're currently casting for our new movie as well, too, which is going to be about the advent of the mastermind. They were called mystery schools and how that started and all that. And that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I mean, beyond physical matter, legendary people, again, like Marie Diamond, Dr. Joe Vitale, and John Asserat, and also guys that may not be as known, right? But they are very well known in their space. Jason Estes, Jeremy Hoffman. Jason, there's a 48,000 quantum bed behind me, which is considered one of the most sophisticated machines in the world, right? And to help raise your vibration and energetics and so forth. And thankfully we have one. And at the end of the day, like he's going to be there, and he's opening up his wellness spa in LA at the largest building rooftop in the country. It's called the 1010 building right down the street from Lakers Arena, Crypto.com Arena. It used to be the Staples Center. So we're going to go there Sunday. We're going to have an after party there. So Friday's the premiere. Saturday's the special meet and greet luncheon with the VIP tickets, Dr. Joe and Marie Diamond, all the cast of The Secret, and some of the newer guys. And Sunday is this great wellness spa, this wellness event. And we're very excited, at the end of the day, I truly believe any human being, if you're watching now, can take anything you do to the next level. If you choose to do it, find a mentor that's already done it, and follow through, and there's going to be seasons are going to come in and out. I was down for 5.5 years, but you better believe it, in finding the right people, the people that Dr. Joe Dispenza and the stem cells, and having the people to call on to basically learn and be guided. I felt like I was shot out of cannon, and I feel like Captain America coming off the ice, like, to make up half a decade, basically, so anybody can do it. I truly believe it. And by the way, I just want to show this piece. If you think you're not good at what you can become great at, I failed public speaking in college, not high school, college. And I was painfully shy till my first mentor. And after a year working with my mentor, I was on stage in front of 3,000 people. So go figure. And by the way, I started with 7 at a kitchen room table. So,
well, I think it's easy to be impressed by something by a movement as big as The Secret movement, right? It's easy to be impressed by it. It's easy to stand back and say, and look at how many millionaires it's created, how many billionaires. But what's fascinating to me, Tony, and we'll be at the premiere, as you know, on the 26th. We'll be on the red carpet with you and the stars and so forth, as live broadcasts for Voice America. What I really appreciate is as you get to know the people behind this, people like yourself and Lady Didi and Sir Don and so forth and so on. They are some of the most loving, most caring, big-hearted, altruistic, philanthropic people that I have ever met. Right?
Amen. Amen.
And as you get to know them, as you obviously do, you've worked with them for years, as I have and am. they're a very special group. And they have a desire to make a difference in the world. We talk about putting a dent in the universe. We are up against our next break here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the people behind this movie, a little bit about the knighting ceremony that's coming up in March that you're a part of. They say a company's only as good as the people behind it. I believe a movement is signified by the people behind it, and the people behind this movement, this movie, this community are extraordinary, in my experience. So don't go away. We'll be right back. We're visiting with Tony Dreammaker Dody here on Finding Certainty. Join the conversation. Be right back.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click Register at the top right.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
You're listening to us here on Finding Certainty. I'm your host, Patrick Laing, with my good friend Anthony DeGraff. Tony Dreammaker Dody, as he's better known in many circles. But we were talking about the premiere you have coming up in 2 weeks here, Tony, and just about the quality of the people that are involved. I mean, I've been a fan of The Secret since it first hit the stage. I believe it's been a significant contributor in my own life and my own success. And in fact, I grew up believing in attitude determines your altitude and all these things, these monikers, right? But I came to learn, both through The Secret and through the scriptures and through other sources, I've come to learn that it goes far beyond just a nice, optimism or this nice saying. That there is truly something to it. That, in fact, you talk about how we're getting smarter, we're learning more. You talk about the education of it all. They now have technology that they can literally measure the speed of a sound wave, of a thought. They've measured and proven. They can put the diodes on your head and measure that positive thought vibrates 10,000 times faster than a negative thought, and it literally has a magnetic quality. Talk about the 5 people you spend the most time with, how you have a similar vibration, and your vibration starts to match theirs. You start to attract into your life more of the same vibration or that same frequency, as you call it. you've seen it and are seeing it unfold in your own life. Just before we left to the break, you were talking about the ripple effect. Mm-hmm. I talk all the time about ripple effects, right? Mm-hmm. And in business, in relationships, and in everything. So as we talk about the quality of the people that you're interacting with and where their hearts really lie, they want to not just make income, they want to make a difference, and they want to give back. Mm-hmm. That leads to some of the I think most impressive, most significant individuals in the world that are now being recognized by being knighted. Mm-hmm. Sir Don and Madame Dody, mm-hmm. Just as good examples. They're friends of ours, right? Good friends of yours. They're the executive producers on this film, along with yourself. Let's talk about this knighting ceremony. What does it mean? How did it come about? I don't think everybody has heard of that. If they're familiar with it, we think of a knighting ceremony as something that went on with, 200 years ago. Right. But there are people like Sir Dr. James Dentley III, who was on my show previously, and others like him, like Didi and Don, who have been knighted recently for accomplishments in their life. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like the winning the Super Bowl for an influencer. It's like it's like a gold medal, an Olympic gold medal for someone who is giving back.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what's funny, to your point, so two of them may potentially actually be knighted this knighting ceremony. So Super Bowl winner and a gold medalist. Maybe possibly right? Two, which is really, so we've sat with through our friend Giovanna, give her a big shout out. Momentum with Gio. She has a great show, and she's very close with Emmett Smith, and brought Emmett in. And Emmett was in town with another huge figure, and we talked to him, and he was very, very happy and obliged. So and also my buddy, again, Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist. It'll be called my voicemail, Rowdy Gaines too. I'm actually going to reach out to Rowdy, the Olympic gold medalist, the swimmer. 27 world records and 3 gold medals, and hosted the last 5 or 6 Olympics. He's the voice you heard when Michael Phelps broke all the records and so forth. And he's one of the greatest swimmers of all time too. But so I'm actually going to reach out to Rowdy. But at the end of the day, it's an honor. What's funny, very apropos, and again, the definition of basically coincidence is two coincident angles meant to be, like Dr. Dyer used to always speak about. So when we first met, we went out in Vegas. I was there for the first knighting ceremony in the States, since COVID, right? And they had done it in Vegas and so forth. And it used to have, I believe, 250 dukes and duchesses present, things like that. They lessened it a bit because of the COVID restrictions. But Lady Didi was getting knighted there. And Lady Didi is actually not in this film with us, but Lady Didi and I, thankfully, and my beautiful wife and some others have a show coming out, Speak Out, on Amazon. It's actually on season 5, Speak Up. It's going to be rebranded as Speak Out, and very exciting. It's basically like a TED Talk, but televised. And she has a great movie out called Hero right now, and Dickie V on Disney Plus. So give her a little shout out. And she's doing Modigliani with Johnny Depp and Al Pacino. I mean, she's incredible, right? Absolutely incredible, to say the least. But what these knighting ceremonies are is exactly what it sounds like, right? So if you go back historically, chronologically, in 350 AD-ish, Emperor Constantine and his mother Helen the Great opened up basically these categories in which somebody could be knighted, even if they were not born noble blood, right? And it was one of 6 acts of valor. Now there's 8 of them. And some of them now are like the entrepreneurship. Some of them are, giving back and so forth, from philanthropic level, which is why Lady Didi was knighted. Some of them are great athletic performance, where somebody like an Emmett Smith would fall into the category, or my friend, give her a shout out, Mermaid Liban, who swam 30 miles, and she's done things like this many times over, 6 Guinness World Records, raising awareness for sustainability for the ocean. She swims like a fish, no hands, no feet, and she swam 30 miles nonstop with a 9-pound monofin. She's Estonian. And she literally did not stop for, I think it was 15 and a half hours straight, with Guinness right there. And the mayors of Miami has the key to the city, her own day on her birthday. She's being recognized for not just the sports achievement, but for the philanthropic works, right? So these human beings are doing wonderful, wonderful things, right? And it's an honor that we're able to assist Lady Didi and be on the council to help in this. My beautiful wife, Christina, who's literally she's like a female David Tutera. David Tutera. She's like the best planner. I mean, she's incredible. She's poised. She's incredible. She also co-founded the first virtual sorority in the world. during COVID as well too, and they were the biggest at the time contributors to Ashton Kutcher's organization against human trafficking, Dorn. Right, so everybody's doing an amazing thing at the end of the day. So basically, if you qualify, you go through a process where there's people that run these territories. It's called Grand Prior, and they have to go through review that everything is legitimate and so forth. Then it goes up to the higher levels. My friend Sir Alex Stern, he's a baron. He's the Grand Prior of the United States. He's under Contact and several other incredible tech companies. First generation, basically billionaire, right? A wonderful guy, gives back and so forth so much. And so he goes up to them, and then the dukes and the duchesses, and eventually the prince himself, right? And the prince himself is actually of direct bloodline lineage of Emperor Constantine, Prince Raphael of the Royal House of Cappadocia, which is now Turkey, right? And of course, the Roman Empire expanded, right, to different areas, after Constantine in the 4th century. So they've continued it. It's the oldest knighting ceremony in the world from that bloodline, right? And there's many names that have been knighted. Tony Braxton's been knighted, Paul Abdul, through this lineage. And obviously we hear of like Sir Elton John and people. I believe that was through a different lineage, but it's just incredible, right? And so it's March 16th. In Miami at the Cruise Building, which is the most fantastic, ornate building that you can imagine, truly walking into a castle, taking it from someone who proposed in the Walt Disney World Cinderella Castle for my beautiful wife, and had a wonderful, thank God, wedding that she planned the entire thing. It is incredible and elegant and ornate. So, there will be, tickets available and so forth coming soon on March 16th. It is an invite-only type thing, but it is one of those things that is the most incredible experience that, honestly, that I've ever been. There's been a lot of events, various parts around the world. Never been to anything like the knighting ceremony. And our relationship, again, coincidentally began right after that knighting ceremony, the first one after COVID. So really cool, very apropos, brings us here.
Yeah, I remember you were on cloud 9.
Oh my gosh, I think cloud 10.
After that event, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of symbolism in it. And I love that there's something like that that's recognizing influencers and contributors, people who are truly working to make a difference. Madame Dody, she has 42 books and 20 movies, and she's given back millions of dollars. She's such a great example of the type of person that's being knighted. I've even heard rumors that you may be on the docket here, maybe not March, but coming up in the future, which would not surprise me, because you're one of those who continues to give back, who continues to make a difference. You're a great example for me and for all of us. So.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. Yeah, it's amazing. And, I know Sir Don Boyer and Lady Melinda is going to have one later in the year in California. And again, they took 20 movies, 42 books. And then our good buddy, Sir James Dentley, had a wonderful one in Chicago in June with Lady Cara. Lady Cara Dentley's in our movie. I'd love to have her on the show. I know we spoke about that. Lady Cara is amazing, brilliant neuroscientist, but then just taking the spiritual aspect too. I joke with Brother James. I said she's the brains of the beauty behind the operation. And I love you, Brother James, if you're watching. But it's and they're going to be having one, I believe, later in the year. I want to say June-ish. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, just wonderful people at the end of the day. But acknowledgement, and that's the thing. And and it's even if someone's done wonderful things, but they have a bad record behind the scenes. They're not knighted. We know a gentleman is a crypto billionaire and wanted to be, and had a little bit of a record and wasn't able to, unfortunately, right? But it's one of those things that this gets to kind of spotlight those that are doing it. And again, it's just it's kind of just getting into the right circle by doing the right things. I always say always do the right things, and I tell people, look, you're always going to mess up. You're always going to do things that are not that people will perceive a certain way or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you can act authentically, honestly, the Bible says your name's worth more than silver and gold. Do your very best. Some things will come out wrong sometimes, be misconstrued, misinterpreted. But there's a difference between that and actually intentionally doing wrong. It's a very, very big difference, right? And that's where I think free will choice comes in. And if you do the right thing long enough on the right people, again, if you just help, I really think gaps will be filled and things will happen. And I just want to share something else for somebody coming through the journey, if I may. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Ken West and also Kristen Swackner. Kristen Connell is more her business name. And therewiredmind.com. But they have these, if somebody's stuck, and I've had people from Think and Grow Rich tell me this too, I can work up to, and by the way, Sir Don Lehman have a great movie with Napoleon Hill Foundation, also on Amazon, The Power of Thought. But they can get up to a certain point 3D-wise where they want to do it and, they're moving. But you could be born, and not to get too esoteric here, right? But there's science, and certainly these guys can explain it much more in depth than me. There's things that you could be born into. They're called mindisms and so forth, right? Where you could, have lineage of, kind of, negative beliefs and, and so forth that you're born into, not just what you grew up in, right? Like the nurture, but actually born into genetically. But epigenetics, right, has shown that you can, turn on and off the switches. So there's great people out there like Kristen Connell, like Dr. Ken West, that have what's called resolution therapy, where they can work with you and do these different, modalities where you can basically, most of the brain is 96% of it is binary, meaning on and off. That's how Joe Dispenza does what he does, right? High levels of meditation. Genes can turn on and off, right? Genetic expression. 4% is neocortex, but if you focus on the 96%, you would be amazed, using certain modalities that things can kind of go like that and flip a switch. And then you're working in what's called the 5D, right? So now you're attracting things to you and so forth as well. Of course, you have the good people around you in the 3D sense as well, but you're picking up the vibration, but then you're adding to the vibration as well. And I think a lot of people miss that. There are human beings that actually do this for a living that's able to do it. So yeah, thank you.
We are winding down. I'm always amazed by how fast the show goes by.
Right.
At first, when I was starting as a host, I thought, man, I've got to fill a whole hour, and it goes by so quick.
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
You hit on a really important point, and I think we need to end on this. You talked about how this knighting ceremony, the movie, and everyone involved in it. Your upbringing through your first mentor to other mentors you've had, and the opportunities you've had to be on stage with some of the best. Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. You hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, and it is a key to finding and developing certainty. Is the knighting ceremony recognizes character. It's not just accomplishment. It's not just wealth or prestige or achievement. You have to have both, right? You have to have the character to go with the success to truly be recognized in that way, to truly, in my opinion, and I know you agree, but to truly achieve real and lasting success. We're out of time. We've been visiting with my good friend, Tony Dreammaker Dody. He's helping people make their dreams come to pass. And you're a super connector. You're better at it than anyone I've ever met, Tony. And I learned a lot from you, my friend. So thanks for being on Finding Certainty. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you for having me.
You've been with us. And have a great weekend. Come back next week. Every week we have another fantastic guest. In fact, the next 2 weeks, we're going to be interviewing a couple of the other participants, contributors to the film Beyond Physical Matter. I got it right. Beyond Physical Matter.
Yeah.
Go to beyondphysicalmatter.com to learn more about it. We'll see you at the premiere if you join us at the Spectrum Irvine on January 26th. I know I'll see you there, Tony. Thanks for everything, friend.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you, everybody. Love you so much. I appreciate it. Please keep listening to Patrick. He's the best of the best. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, my friend. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.